even in the midst of devastating betrayal. Viewers are encouraged to engage with this content by subscribing to the channel to access additional analysis of significant moments that illustrate the importance of honesty, integrity, and respecting the commitments we make to others. The Thompson family from Atlanta, Georgia had been selected to compete on Family Feud after submitting their application 6 months prior. The family consisted of Marcus Thompson, his wife Jennifer, his mother Patricia, his sister Angela, and notably, a woman introduced as Marcus's cousin Rachel from his father's side of the family. What the production staff, the audience, and most critically, Jennifer Thompson did not know was that Rachel Stevens was not Marcus's cousin. She was, in fact, the woman with whom Marcus had been conducting an extramarital affair for the past 18 months. The audacity required to bring one's paramour to a family event while maintaining the deception in front of one's spouse would prove to be only the beginning of Marcus's errors in judgment. Marcus Thompson was a 34-year-old pharmaceutical sales representative who had achieved considerable professional success in his field. His position provided substantial income, frequent travel opportunities, and the kind of flexibility that made conducting a clandestine relationship logistically feasible though morally indefensible. Colleagues described Marcus as charismatic and persuasive, qualities that served him well in sales, but had apparently extended into his personal life in destructive ways. He projected an image of the successful family man, frequently sharing photographs of family activities on social media platforms and speaking with apparent pride about his wife and their 2 children, aged 6 and 4 years. Jennifer Thompson was 32 years old and worked as an elementary school counselor, a profession that reflected her genuine compassion and desire to help others navigate difficult situations. Ironically, she possessed professional training in recognizing warning signs of deception and instability, yet she had not detected the elaborate lies her husband had constructed around his double life. Jennifer had met Marcus during their university years, and they had married shortly after graduation. She had supported his career ambitions, managed their household during his frequent business trips, and created a stable, loving environment for their children. Friends and family members consistently described Jennifer as devoted, trustworthy, and deeply committed to her marriage and family. Rachel Stevens was 28 years old and worked in the marketing department of the same pharmaceutical company that employed Marcus. Their professional relationship had begun innocuously enough, collaborating on sales presentations and attending the same corporate training sessions. The affair had commenced during a conference in Miami 18 months prior to the Family Feud appearance. What had begun as mutual attraction had evolved into a sustained relationship characterized by deception, manipulation, and Marcus's repeated promises that he would eventually leave his wife once circumstances permitted. Rachel had initially expressed reluctance about becoming involved with a married man, but Marcus had proven adept at rationalization, claiming that his marriage had deteriorated, that he and Jennifer remained together only for their children, and that Jennifer herself suspected the marriage was failing. These claims were entirely false. Jennifer had no knowledge that her marriage was in jeopardy. She believed her relationship with Marcus was strong, built on mutual respect and shared commitment to their family. While they experienced the normal challenges that accompany raising young children and managing dual careers, Jennifer perceived these as typical stresses rather than indicators of fundamental problems. Marcus had become exceptionally skilled at compartmentalizing his life, maintaining his role as husband and father while simultaneously conducting his affair with Rachel. The decision to include Rachel in the Family Feud taping represented a remarkable escalation in Marcus's risk-taking behavior. Psychologists would later analyze this choice as potentially indicating a subconscious desire to be discovered, or alternatively, a manifestation of narcissistic belief that he could successfully maintain his deception even under the scrutiny of national television. Marcus had introduced Rachel to his family as a cousin from his deceased father's side, claiming she had recently relocated to Atlanta and was eager to connect with her extended family. Jennifer, characteristically welcoming and generous, had embraced this new family member without suspicion, inviting Rachel to family gatherings and developing what she believed was a genuine friendship with her supposed cousin-in-law. Patricia Thompson, Marcus's mother, was a 62-year-old retired teacher who had raised Marcus and his sister with strong values emphasizing honesty, respect, and family loyalty. She had been immensely proud of her son's professional achievements and his apparent dedication to his family. Patricia had welcomed Rachel warmly, though she had privately expressed mild confusion to her daughter Angela about a cousin she had never previously heard mentioned from her late husband's family. However, trusting her son's integrity, she had not pursued these concerns further. Angela Thompson, Marcus's 30-year-old sister, was a corporate attorney with sharp observational skills and a naturally skeptical disposition. She had noticed certain interactions between Marcus and Rachel that seemed subtly inappropriate for cousins, particularly during family gatherings when Marcus would find reasons to speak privately with Rachel, or when their body language suggested a familiarity that extended beyond familial connection. Angela had mentioned these observations to her mother, but had been reluctant to directly accuse her brother of impropriety without concrete evidence. The Family Feud production staff had conducted standard background verification for all participants, but had no reason to question the family relationships as presented. The application had listed Rachel as Marcus's cousin, and there were no obvious red flags that would have warranted deeper investigation. The show's focus was entertainment, not genealogical verification, and the Thompson family had presented themselves as an enthusiastic, close-knit unit eager to participate in the experience. Stephen Harvey, at 67 years of age, had hosted Family Feud for over a decade and prided himself on his ability to read people and situations. He had developed an intuitive sense for when something seemed discordant, or when contestants were not entirely forthcoming. As the Thompson family assembled on stage for their introduction, Mr. Harvey engaged in his characteristic warm banter, asking family members about their relationships and backgrounds. When he reached Rachel, introduced as Marcus's cousin, something in the dynamic caught his attention. The way Marcus glanced at Rachel, the slight tension in Jennifer's posture, the almost imperceptible exchange of looks between Rachel and Marcus all registered in Mr. Harvey's consciousness as worthy of note, though he could not have articulated precisely what seemed irregular. The Thompson family competed effectively during the initial rounds, displaying good chemistry and achieving respectable scores. Marcus and Jennifer stood together at the family podium, presenting the image of a united couple, while Patricia, Angela, and Rachel cheered from their designated positions. The game proceeded normally through several questions, with family members taking turns providing answers and celebrating successful responses. The situation began to deteriorate during a particular question that required Marcus to provide a response. Mr. Harvey, with his characteristic humor and tendency to engage contestants in brief conversational exchanges, asked Marcus a seemingly innocuous question about the secret to a happy marriage. This type of question was standard in Mr. Harvey's repertoire, designed to generate humorous responses and create moments of connection with the audience. Marcus's response, however, created the first obvious crack in the carefully constructed facade. He stated that the secret to a happy marriage was ensuring one's spouse never discovered one's secrets. The audience laughed, interpreting the comment as humorous exaggeration. Mr. Harvey laughed as well, though his expression suggested he had registered something concerning in Marcus's tone and demeanor. Jennifer laughed along with the audience, though her smile appeared slightly strained. Rachel, standing with the other family members, had visibly stiffened, her expression transforming from cheerful support to obvious anxiety. Angela Thompson, watching from her position, later reported that this moment had crystallized her suspicions. The particular way Marcus had glanced at Rachel while making his comment, the visible tension in Rachel's response, and the obliviousness of Jennifer to these subtle but significant cues had convinced Angela that her concerns about Marcus and Rachel's relationship were valid. She faced an agonizing decision about whether to address her suspicions immediately or wait for a more appropriate moment. The game continued, though the atmosphere had shifted subtly. Those paying close attention to interpersonal dynamics rather than simply watching the game itself, could detect increased tension among the Thompson family members. Marcus appeared more nervous, his responses coming less smoothly than earlier. Rachel had retreated psychologically, her earlier enthusiasm replaced by visible discomfort. Angela watched both of them with barely concealed suspicion. The critical moment arrived during a commercial break, when family members typically relaxed briefly and engaged in casual conversation while production staff made necessary adjustments. What Mr. Harvey and the studio audience witnessed next would transform the taping from entertainment into something far more serious and consequential. Jennifer Thompson, seeking to use the break productively, pulled out her mobile phone to check messages from their childcare provider. She had left her phone with Patricia, her mother-in-law, for safekeeping during the taping. However, in retrieving her device, she accidentally picked up a phone that appeared identical to her own, but was, in fact, Marcus's phone. Both had purchased the same model and color, making them visually indistinguishable without closer examination. The phone in Jennifer's hand displayed a lock screen, but a text message notification was visible. The message was from a contact saved as R, and read, "I cannot believe we are doing this. Being here with you and your wife is killing me. We need to talk about when you are finally going to tell her the truth." Jennifer stared at the message, her mind initially unable to process its implications. She looked at the phone more carefully and realized it was not hers. She looked at Marcus, who was engaged in conversation with Mr. Harvey and had not noticed her discovery. She looked at Rachel, and in that moment of eye contact, Rachel's expression of guilt and fear confirmed what the message suggested. What happened next unfolded rapidly. Jennifer, her hands trembling, confronted Marcus directly on stage, during what was still technically a commercial break, though cameras continued recording for behind the scenes footage. Her voice, initially quiet but growing in volume and intensity, demanded explanation. She asked Marcus directly who R was and what truth he was supposedly planning to tell her. Marcus's face drained of color. He attempted to claim the message was a misunderstanding, that it was related to a work situation, but his explanations were incoherent and transparently false. Jennifer, drawing on her professional training in reading body language and detecting deception, was not deceived. She turned to Rachel, asking her directly whether she was R, and whether she was involved romantically with Marcus. The studio had fallen silent. The audience, the production staff, and Mr. Harvey himself stood frozen, witnessing the disintegration of what they had believed was a happy family. Rachel, confronted directly and apparently experiencing guilt that had been accumulating for 18 months, broke down completely. Through tears, she acknowledged the affair, expressing that she had not wanted to participate in the Family Feud deception, but that Marcus had convinced her it would be acceptable, even amusing, and that no one would discover the truth. Marcus attempted to control the situation, asking for privacy to discuss the matter away from cameras and audience. However, Jennifer, operating now on a combination of shock, anger, and righteous indignation, refused to move. She stated clearly that Marcus had chosen to bring his mistress to a public taping, to deceive not only his wife but his entire family and all present, and that if he valued privacy, he should have considered that before making such choices. Mr. Harvey, recovering from his initial shock at witnessing such an extraordinary situation, made a decision that reflected both his personal values and his responsibility as the host of the program. He addressed the situation directly, asking production staff to pause all recording and clearing the studio of audience members to provide the family with some measure of privacy for what had become a deeply personal crisis. However, before the studio could be cleared, Mr. Harvey addressed Marcus directly in a manner that would later be described by those present as one of the most powerful examples of moral clarity delivered in an entertainment setting. His tone was measured but conveyed unmistakable judgment and disapproval. He stated that in his years of hosting Family Feud, he had witnessed many unexpected situations, but that the level of deception and disrespect Marcus had displayed exceeded anything he had previously encountered. Mr. Harvey articulated that bringing one's mistress to a family event, introducing her under false pretenses, and conducting this charade in front of one's unsuspecting wife was not merely an error in judgment, but a profound betrayal that revealed fundamental character deficiencies. He addressed the multiple layers of Marcus's deception, noting that he had lied to his wife, his mother, his sister, the television program, and the audience. He had exploited the trust of everyone present to pursue his own gratification and to engage in behavior that demonstrated contempt for the institution of marriage and for basic human decency. Mr. Harvey then addressed Jennifer, expressing profound sympathy for the position in which she found herself. He acknowledged that discovering one's spouse's infidelity under any circumstances was devastating, but that learning about it on a public stage, in front of strangers and cameras, added an additional layer of humiliation that was deeply unjust. He offered Jennifer whatever support the program could provide, including immediate assistance in leaving the studio privately if she wished, access to professional counseling resources, and assurance that any footage of the incident would be handled with sensitivity to her dignity and privacy. He also addressed Rachel, noting that while her participation in the affair was indefensible, her willingness to acknowledge the truth when confronted suggested capacity for taking responsibility for her actions. He encouraged her to learn from this experience and to make different choices in the future regarding respect for others' relationships and commitments. Patricia Thompson, Marcus's mother, had been rendered nearly speechless by the revelation about her son's behavior. When she finally found her voice, her statement to Marcus was brief but devastating in its moral weight. She expressed that she had raised him to value honesty, respect, and commitment, and that his actions represented a repudiation of every value she had attempted to instill. She stated that while he would always be her son, she was profoundly disappointed and ashamed of his choices. Angela Thompson, whose suspicions had been vindicated in the worst possible way, focused her attention on supporting Jennifer. She immediately positioned herself as Jennifer's advocate and protector, making clear that whatever Jennifer needed, Angela would ensure she received. The solidarity between the two women, though they had previously enjoyed only a cordial sister-in-law relationship, would prove to be one of the positive outcomes emerging from the devastating situation. The studio audience, which had been temporarily asked to leave, had largely remained in the building, aware that something extraordinary had occurred and eager to understand what had happened. When Mr. Harvey addressed them afterward, he provided a carefully worded explanation that acknowledged a serious family situation had arisen that required the taping to be suspended. He asked for their understanding and discretion, though he knew that in the age of social media, the incident would likely become public knowledge rapidly. The decision regarding whether to proceed with the taping or to cancel it entirely fell to Mr. Harvey in consultation with production executives. After speaking with Jennifer, who remarkably expressed a desire to complete the competition despite what had just occurred, Mr. Harvey made the decision to continue. He explained to Jennifer that she was under no obligation to proceed, but if she chose to do so, he would ensure that Marcus and Rachel were removed from the stage, and that she could compete with Patricia and Angela alongside her, with production assistants filling the additional positions required for Family Feud format. Jennifer's decision to continue was later explained in interviews as arising from multiple motivations. She stated that she refused to allow Marcus's betrayal to rob her of the experience entirely. She wanted to demonstrate to her children, who would eventually learn of these events, that even when life delivered devastating blows, one could maintain dignity and complete what one had started. She also acknowledged that continuing the game provided her with a temporary respite from the full emotional impact of what had just occurred, giving her mind something concrete to focus on before she would need to fully process the implications of Marcus's betrayal. The revised taping proceeded with Jennifer, Patricia, and Angela competing alongside two production assistants who volunteered to participate. Mr. Harvey's handling of the situation was exceptionally professional, maintaining appropriate levity to facilitate the game while remaining sensitive to the extraordinary circumstances. The family, despite the devastating revelation they had just experienced, competed effectively, ultimately winning their game and securing the $20,000 prize. The decision regarding public dissemination of the incident involved complex considerations regarding privacy, consent, and the educational value of documenting consequences of profound deception. After extensive discussions involving legal counsel, ethics advisors, and most importantly, Jennifer Thompson herself, the determination was made to air portions of the incident with appropriate context, warnings, and Jennifer's explicit permission. Jennifer had concluded that if her painful experience could serve to help others recognize warning signs of infidelity, or give courage to others experiencing betrayal, then allowing it to be shared publicly provided meaning to her suffering. When edited footage of the incident aired 3 months following the taping, response was immediate and generated extensive public discourse. The episode achieved the highest ratings Family Feud had recorded in over 5 years. However, the impact extended far beyond simple viewership numbers. The incident sparked national conversations about infidelity, the psychology of deception, the importance of maintaining appropriate boundaries in professional relationships, and the devastating impact of betrayal on families. Mental health professionals utilized the incident as a teaching tool regarding narcissistic behavior patterns and the psychological mechanisms that enable individuals to engage in sustained deception. Marcus's apparent belief that he could successfully maintain his double life, even under the scrutiny of television cameras, was analyzed as potentially indicating a personality disorder characterized by grandiosity, lack of empathy, and impaired judgment regarding risk assessment. Relationship counselors noted that Marcus's statement about marriage during the taping, which had seemed humorous to the audience, was actually an example of a phenomenon known as duping delight, wherein individuals engaged in deception experience pleasure from successfully fooling others and sometimes cannot resist making subtle references to their secret knowledge. The comment had functioned as a psychological release valve for Marcus, allowing him to acknowledge his deception in a manner that seemed like a joke but carried genuine meaning. For Jennifer Thompson, the aftermath of the public revelation proved to be both more challenging and ultimately more healing than private discovery might have been. The immediate period following the taping was extraordinarily difficult. She filed for divorce within 2 weeks and secured temporary custody of their children. The dissolution of the marriage proceeded with significant acrimony, as the public nature of Marcus's betrayal had eliminated any possibility of maintaining pretense or negotiating from a position of equal culpability. However, the public nature of the revelation also generated an overwhelming outpouring of support for Jennifer. She received thousands of messages from individuals who had experienced similar betrayals, expressing solidarity and offering encouragement. Support groups for spouses of unfaithful partners reached out to provide resources. Professional organizations representing school counselors rallied around one of their colleagues, offering both emotional support and practical assistance with legal expenses. Marcus Thompson faced significant consequences across multiple domains of his life. His employer, responding to the publicity surrounding the incident and recognizing the inappropriate nature of the relationship between Marcus and Rachel that had developed in a workplace context, terminated both individuals' employment. The termination was justified not on moral grounds, but on the basis that their relationship had created conflicts of interest, had likely involved misuse of company time and resources, and had generated negative publicity affecting the company's reputation. Marcus's relationship with Rachel dissolved rapidly following the public exposure. The affair, which had been sustained partly by secrecy and the excitement of forbidden contact, could not survive the harsh reality of public scrutiny, unemployment, and the recognition that their relationship had caused profound harm to innocent parties. Rachel, facing her own consequences including job loss and damage to her professional reputation, eventually issued a public apology to Jennifer, acknowledging her role in the deception and expressing genuine remorse for her choices. Patricia Thompson maintained a relationship with her son, but established clear boundaries regarding her willingness to excuse or minimize his behavior. She made public statements expressing that while she loved Marcus, she could not condone his actions and that Jennifer and her grandchildren deserved her primary loyalty and support. This clear stance from Marcus's own mother proved influential in broader public discourse, as it demonstrated that supporting family members did not require endorsing their destructive behavior. Angela Thompson became a close friend and advocate for Jennifer, providing crucial emotional and practical support during the divorce proceedings and the challenging period of adjustment that followed. The bond that developed between the two women was frequently cited in discussions about the incident as an example of how betrayal could paradoxically create unexpected connections and solidify relationships that might otherwise have remained superficial. Mr. Harvey maintained contact with Jennifer following the incident, checking on her well-being and ensuring she had access to resources she needed. His production company established a fund to support counseling services for individuals who had experienced public humiliation or betrayal, recognizing that Jennifer's situation, while extreme, represented a broader population of individuals who needed support during relationship crises. 6 months following the incident, Family Feud aired a follow-up segment featuring interviews with Jennifer, Patricia, and Angela, along with commentary from relationship experts and counselors. Jennifer appeared composed and notably stronger than she had been during the initial crisis. She discussed her journey of processing the betrayal, rebuilding her life as a single mother, and discovering inner resources of resilience she had not known she possessed. Jennifer shared that the most difficult aspect had not been the infidelity itself but the elaborate deception, the realization that Marcus had been capable of maintaining such comprehensive lies for an extended period, and the recognition that someone she had trusted completely had shown such profound disrespect for her and their family. However, she also expressed that the experience had ultimately proven liberating, removing her from a marriage that, in retrospect, had been built on false foundations and freeing her to eventually build a life based on authentic relationships and genuine mutual respect. The follow-up segment also addressed the impact on the Thompson children, who had been shielded from specific details but were aware that their parents' marriage had ended due to their father's serious mistakes. Child psychologists discussed appropriate ways to help children process parental infidelity, emphasizing the importance of maintaining children's relationships with both parents while not requiring children to excuse inappropriate behavior or keep secrets that created psychological burdens. 1 year following the incident, Jennifer had substantially rebuilt her life. She had received a promotion at her school, recognizing her professional competence and dedication. She had developed a strong support network of friends and had begun individual therapy to process the trauma of the betrayal and to ensure she approached future relationships with healthy boundaries and realistic expectations. She had also become involved with an organization supporting individuals recovering from infidelity, using her experience to help others navigate similar challenges. Marcus Thompson had experienced a more difficult trajectory. Beyond the immediate consequences of job loss and divorce, he faced ongoing challenges rebuilding his professional reputation and maintaining meaningful relationships with his children. Court-ordered parenting classes and individual counseling had begun to generate some insight into the psychological factors that had contributed to his choices, though progress appeared gradual and uneven. He eventually secured employment in a different industry at a significantly reduced income level and was complying with child support and custody arrangements. The incident generated lasting impact across multiple sectors of society. Corporate human resources departments strengthened policies regarding workplace relationships, particularly those involving power differentials or married employees. Many organizations implemented more comprehensive ethics training addressing not only legal compliance, but also the broader implications of deceptive behavior and the importance of maintaining professional boundaries. Entertainment industry professionals studied Mr. Harvey's handling of the crisis as a model for managing unexpected situations that transcended typical game show disruptions. His ability to provide moral clarity while maintaining appropriate professional boundaries, to support the injured party while still treating all individuals with basic human dignity, and to make thoughtful decisions under pressure was analyzed in crisis management training programs. 5 years following the incident, researchers conducted a comprehensive analysis of the long-term impacts on all parties involved. Jennifer had remarried, this time to a colleague in the education field who had demonstrated consistent integrity and genuine respect for her and her children. She reported high levels of satisfaction with her life and expressed that while she would not have chosen to experience such public betrayal, the experience had ultimately led her to a more authentic life and stronger sense of self. Patricia Thompson maintained relationships with both her son and her former daughter-in-law, demonstrating that it was possible to continue loving a child who had made serious mistakes while also supporting the individual harmed by those mistakes. Her example influenced many families facing similar situations, providing a model for maintaining appropriate relationships without condoning inappropriate behavior. The lasting lessons from the incident extended into multiple domains. Mental health professionals emphasized the importance of addressing warning signs of deception in relationships, rather than dismissing concerns due to trust or optimism. Relationship educators incorporated the incident into discussions about the foundations of healthy marriages, emphasizing that genuine intimacy requires honesty and that deception, once introduced into a relationship, creates compounding damage that becomes increasingly difficult to address constructively. Faith communities utilized the incident to discuss themes of forgiveness, consequences, and redemption. Religious leaders noted that while forgiveness was spiritually important, it did not eliminate natural consequences of destructive behavior or require victims of betrayal to remain in relationships characterized by dishonesty. The conversations helped many individuals understand that establishing boundaries and ending relationships that had become toxic was compatible with spiritual growth and moral maturity. Legal professionals noted that the public nature of the revelation had created unusual dynamics in the divorce proceedings, as the evidence of infidelity was irrefutable and publicly documented. This eliminated common disputes about whether affairs had occurred and allowed proceedings to focus on practical matters of asset division and custody arrangements rather than litigating questions of fault and credibility. Viewers are encouraged to reflect on the importance of honesty and integrity in their own relationships and commitments. Deception, regardless of how skillfully maintained, ultimately creates damage that extends far beyond the immediate parties involved, affecting children, extended family members, and entire communities. The capacity to maintain elaborate lies does not indicate sophistication or skill, but rather reveals profound character deficiencies and lack of empathy for those harmed by dishonesty. Viewers are invited to subscribe to this channel to access additional content examining important narratives that illuminate principles of integrity, honesty, and treating others with the respect they deserve. Sharing this content with individuals who might benefit from these lessons is encouraged to build communities that value transparency and authentic relationships. The narrative of the Family Feud incident where Marcus Thompson brought his secret lover on stage transcended its origin as a dramatic revelation. It became instructional material regarding the cost of deception, a demonstration that elaborate lies eventually collapse under their own weight, and a reminder that integrity and honesty, while requiring courage and sometimes uncomfortable self-examination, form the only sustainable foundation for meaningful relationships and authentic lives. Marcus's apparent belief that he could successfully maintain his deception, even on national television, revealed not cleverness, but profound foolishness and moral bankruptcy. Jennifer's dignity in the face of devastating public betrayal demonstrated that strength is revealed not in the absence of pain, but in how one responds when life delivers its harshest blows. The support Jennifer received from unexpected sources illustrated that communities still recognize and respond to genuine suffering, and that standing firm for principles of honesty and respect resonates across demographic and cultural boundaries. The genuine lesson from this remarkable incident is that the elaborate effort required to maintain deception could instead be directed toward building authentic relationships characterized by mutual respect and genuine intimacy. The price of dishonesty is ultimately far higher than the temporary discomfort that honesty might require. That is the legacy of the day Steve Harvey witnessed a betrayal so brazen it initially defied comprehension. That is the lesson all individuals should integrate into their understanding of what it means to live with integrity and honor the commitments we make to others.